Nothing about us without us. We are all familiar with this iconic catch cry that came out of the disability advocacy movement of the 70s and 80s. At this same time, and in the same spirit of social justice and equality, feminist activists were coming together with victim survivors of family violence to create shelters and supports, establishing what we now know today as the Specialist Family Violence Services. In our daily work, specialist family violence practitioners work collaboratively with victim survivors to manage the risk posed to them by violent perpetrators, navigate a complex family violence system, advocate for their rights, and support them to restore safety in their lives. Family violence practitioners, the specialist family violence services they work for, and DVVIC, the peak body for specialist family violence services in Victoria, we are all ultimately accountable to victim survivors of family violence. Why are the voices of victim survivors important in our work? Because they keep us accountable within a system and society that colludes with men's violence against women, and because people are the experts of their own experience. My name is Emma Morgan. I'm the Project Manager for Philanthropic Partnerships and Projects at DVVIC. Thank you so much for this opportunity to tell you about our work and this critical new initiative we are leading with our sector. The establishment of a victim survivor advocacy body within the peak body for specialist family violence services in Victoria will enable victim survivor advocates to input into the design, delivery, and evaluation of services and support victim survivor advocates to set industry standards for the engagement, remuneration, and training of victim survivor advocacy in perpetuity. But first, I need to give you some context, and I have to warn you, this is a hard reminder of why we are here talking about this work today. On the 12th of February 2014, Luke Batty was murdered by his father in broad daylight on a cricket pitch in a Melbourne suburb. This came after years of family violence perpetrated against Luke's mother, Rosie Batty, and ultimately the system's failure to protect Rosie and Luke resulted in Luke's death. In the aftermath of this unthinkable tragedy, Rosie stood up as a powerful representative voice for all adults and children made victims or survivors of family violence. She changed the national conversation about family violence, and she led us to a point of no return. In the months following, DVVIC's then CEO, Fiona McCormack, accompanied Rosie to meet with Victorian Premier Daniel Andrews to demand change. Rosie's advocacy was instrumental in his decision to call a Royal Commission into family violence, marking a watershed moment that resulted in what is arguably a world-leading reform agenda aimed at ending family violence in the state. One of the key messages delivered by the Royal Commission was the need to embed the voices of victim survivors in every aspect of the family violence system. In response, the Victorian Government established the Victim Survivor Advisory Council, or VSAC, to work with the government on its family violence work. Rosie served as the chair of VSAC for its first term. Within the family violence sector, there has been incredible work done over the decades to embed the voices of victim survivors in how we do our work. However, this work has never been supported by an overarching framework, nor has it ever been adequately resourced. The time has come to embed the voices of victim survivors in the design, delivery, evaluation, and governance of our family violence services in a more systemic, consistent, and sustainable manner. We need the equivalent of VSAC for the community sector. Rosie endorses this initiative, and we are so fortunate to have her support and experience in forming this work. On the 27th of July, DVVIC and the University of Melbourne will launch the Family Violence Experts by Experience framework, designed to support specialist family violence services to embed victim survivor voices in the design, delivery, and evaluation of their services. This work was co-designed by the University of Melbourne Weavers, a group of victim survivors who support the university's family violence research program. One of the key recommendations coming out of this action research project was the need for a victim survivor advocacy industry body in line with the intentions of the body DVVIC is now seeking to establish. So, how can the Melbourne Women's Fund support this next chapter of victim survivor advocacy in Victoria? The Signature Grant would fully fund us to work with a group of experienced victim survivor advocates to co-design the development of a business model and implementation plan for a victim survivor advisory body to work alongside the peak. We envisage this model will adopt a social enterprise approach in the form of an agency run for and by victim survivors. This will provide a centralised access point for DVVIC's member organisations, services from allied community sectors, corporate partners and government partners to hire victim survivor advocates to inform their work, where victim survivor advocates can come together to support one another and set industry standards for engagement and remuneration of their services, and where victim survivors with an interest in advocacy can receive training, support and employment. Why this model? because the Experts by Experience framework has demonstrated that to engage with victim survivor advocacy authentically and sustainably, we need to find a new model for funding this work and enable organisations with limited resources to engage with victim survivor advocates effectively. Importantly, this work needs to be led by victim survivor advocates themselves. The rationale is that with this model, services can hire victim survivor advocates without needing to build the infrastructure and processes to develop from scratch victim survivor advocacy groups within their own organisations, which are resource intensive to establish and without secure funding streams cannot be sustained. With increased expectation from government that services will engage with victim survivor advocates in the design, delivery and evaluation of their services, organisations are motivated to do this work well. Why DVVIC? As the peak body, we are uniquely placed to support this work because of the mandate we have been given to lead the sector in the development of family violence policy and practice. We have influence and reach across the entire human service system in Victoria, as well as state and federal government departments, corporate stakeholders, the media, and academic research bodies. Moreover, we are in the process of merging with the Domestic Violence Resource Centre, Victoria's only specialist family violence registered training organisation. Once established as a new entity within the next 12 months, we will bring together the strength, resources, and expertise to become the largest organisation of its kind in Australia. At this critical juncture, we aim to model best practice in engaging with lived experience and embed this into the DNA of our new entity. Help us to ensure victim survivor advocacy sits at the heart of this pivotal part of the family violence system as we enter into a new chapter of our great purpose, ending family violence in Victoria. Thank you so much.